Right. Are there numbers on these investigation rooms? Oh, there's 3. There's 5. Well, 7 is here then. Right. Let's look at his belongings first. Kurt Manchier's will and note. A small note attached to the will says, Santos, my hopeful slug. You begged me to include you in my will, so I did. Here's my latest revision of the will, Kurt. The text of the will under the note. Santos Pinchetti, the majordomo of the Manchios mansion, receives a jar of moustache wax and a salt lamp that he might as always remember his caring employer Kurt Manchios. Right.
I recognize the key from the altar room among these. Mr. Pinchetti, a pleasure to meet you. I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm helping Constable Oswald.
I've already told him everything I know. I'm only a witness, sir. Everything's in my report.
And I've read it. You forgot to mention that you hold the keys to the room where Fabio was found. I need only to find if the crime was intentional.
But I need to return to my duties.
I doubt the house will fall without you, Mr. Pinchetti. Just be still for a few seconds.
Inflamed skin. Psoriasis or allergy. What is psoriasis? Patched holes repaired multiple times. Dyed textile colored more than once. Ooh, blood. Stepped in blood. Santos Pinchetti is the head servant at the Manchios mansion. Despite being employed at the highest position within the household, he appears to be poor. And then the choice between his body shows symptoms of psoriasis. Mr. Pinchetti hides his damaged skin under layers of makeup. The majordomo's suit had multiple holes that had been patched or sewn. To renovate the suit's look, Mr. Pinchetti had dyed it. Or, despite having enough money, Mr. Pinchetti spends as little of it as possible. Cheap makeup hides imperfections on his body. In an attempt to look more modern, Mr. Pinchetti has dyed his suit on several occasions. To save even more money, the majordomo appears to have personally repaired multiple holes in the suit. I feel like that is more likely.
You are the majordomo of a rich mansion, and you seem barely able to afford decent clothing. You hide, under heavy makeup, a skin disease that might be treated with more onerous but less harmful means. Do you have money troubles?
I do not have a lot of means. The pay is below what you might expect.
But you could easily change your job if your employer does not meet your elementary needs.
One can change his employer, that is true.
And the blood on your shoe, where does that come from?
I don't actually know. Perhaps from a guest?
Did you know the victim?
Did you know Fabio?
Not personally. He was a frequent guest, and cleaning the mess after his performances was tedious. Mr. Manchios always had a role for him, and mainly the leading one. The parties were always, Fabio-centric?
And Batista? Was she as popular as her partner?
Don't tell her I said this, but I do not think so. Mr. Manchios hired her only because Fabio refused to work without her. Mr. Manchios used to see her as a worker. She was tasked with entertaining the guests, unlike Fabio, who could pick and choose.
All right.
I can't help you.
Mr. Manchios says that you begged him to be included in the heritage. Isn't that a little extreme, even for a majordomo?
He's not only my employer, he's my uncle. And I'm his next of kin. The only one. Mr. Manchios flatly refuses to pay a family member. All I have to do is repay his so-called love, cleaning up the filth after perverts and decadents. He's imprisoned me. The best I can hope for is a new broom. That's why I wanted to have my part of the inheritance.
Is it that bad? You have a roof above your head, a salary, and the status of a majordomo.
For God's sake. I'm forced to dye and stitch my threadbare clothes, and the holes in my shoes are painful. I'm ashamed every time a guest looks at me closely.
Why do you think your uncle treats you this way?
My mother, my uncle's sister, had me illegitimately. She died and I was given the surname of one of the maids.
But you are entitled to some of the money that belongs to your family.
He thinks not. I was not responsible for my mother's death. I work hard, and he pays me nothing. I feed on the leftovers. While he wastes our estate's property on decadent parties, he paid Fabio handsomely and showered him with expensive gifts for their disgusting relationship.
Right, so he's not very happy. Understandably so. Kurt, wanna talk about this? We also might have to go to the evidence room, perhaps? Right, Kurt first. Kurt, you were here.
I've read the letter about your will. A harsh method of ridiculing Santos. I doubt he will use mustache wax when he wears no mustache to begin with.
Where did you get it? Is the slug here? Tell him I shouldn't have to provide for him. He's a grown man who shouldn't sit on his uncle's neck. He conceives himself as my only heir.
And who is he to you?
He's a leech on my aging body. He has only added problems to my life since the death of his mother.
I fail to see why you made him your major domo.
He needed to know his place, so I taught him.
Right. What a nice human being he is. Alright. Is there an evidence room on the other side? I feel like, yeah, there is.
Good day. Your ticket, please, if you want me to help you.
Here you go. Let me just first look for it. There
I'd
it
like
is.
to check the evidence from this case.
And who are you?
Oswald sent me. I'm a consulting detective.
His partner, then? Let me see. Ah, a ritual murder. What a bunch of degenerates. Wait a second. I'll bring it to the table.
Okay, that's a lot. Well, I guess it depends. I mean, Werner Vogel, Kurt Manchios, and Matista, I take it? Yes.
An emergency kit for boredom.
Letter from Fabio. A letter that was found in Vogel's evidence box. Is your mind unsound? You can't control your bitterness. Not around me, anyway. For me, it's too great a risk to ignore that kind of behavior. I can speak, and play with anyone I choose. I'm not another Matista. You pay me, but you haven't bought me. Of course, I'll keep all your generous donations, even though they hardly compensate for your last terrible outburst. I'm leaving you, although Matista will still be around. Fabio.
Not the time for privacy. Werner's personal sketchbook. A heavily perfumed handkerchief with the initials KM in the corner. It's a miracle this ruby hasn't tempted anyone.
We might take it.
All the keys of the mansion on one golden ring.
Of course it's gold.
A handcrafted charm that contains hair and nail clippings.
Odd, but sure. Come on. Me. Just...
Her key to the altar room. That's not for bedtime reading. This Ex Libris belongs to Manchios Library.
The Power of Love, Blood and Mandrake. The police found this occult book in Matista's bag during the arrest. According to the Ex Libris, the tome was taken from Mr. Manchio's collection. It contains illustrations and descriptions of a ritual similar to the crime scene. Prepare the naked body of a recently deceased object of interest. Draw symbols of Mars and Venus to enhance the power you possess. To use the force of male and female nature. Pierce his heart with a golden dagger to be rid of the blood that does not love you. Draw a symbol representing your love while waiting for the resurrection. Recite the charm.
The book describes a ritual similar to the one performed in the altar room.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, officer.
It does, which is very interesting. Because, well, all three of them had, well, when I say all three of them, I don't really consider Werner a suspect, although he totally could be one. All three of them had access to the library. So they all could have read that book, even if at this specific moment it was in Batista's possession. Which, of course, is slightly suspicious. Right, Werner, what do you have to say about this?
So, the police found a letter from Fabio in your pocket.
I cannot tell if it was truly in my pocket at all. Perhaps it was placed there later.
Well, that is one hypothesis. If it were true, then how did it get there?
No clue. But this night has been rather eccentric. Such a detail could have easily eluded me.
Indeed. Do you recall reading it?
I can't remember that either. But I tend to respect privacy. Reading others' personal notes is not one of my perversities.
Well, perhaps if we go at it from this direction, if it's not directed towards Vogel, then who is it directed to? It's probably directed to Kurt, actually. That would be an interesting point, because that would bring him up on the suspect list. If Fabio wanted to leave Kurt, that could be a potential reason to kill him. Sort of the kind of like, if you don't belong to me, then you don't belong to anyone thing.
I've read this letter from Fabio. It had no addressee, but it was found in Mr. Vogel's pocket.
Werner? Strange. I didn't think the two of them corresponded.
I'm sure there is some explanation. Would you care to read it?
Call me superstitious, but I don't care to read a letter from a dead man.
Because you know what's in it already anyway.
Do you recognize this book? Could Batista have borrowed it from your library?
She didn't ask me. How ungrateful.
The things described in the book were inspiration for the rituals you performed?
Do you really believe that blood, symbols, and incantations can resurrect the dead? They are just eerie tales with a mix of occultism and voodoo. My rituals are a stage to show some of the forbidden pleasures.
What did it specifically say on that? Pierce his heart, draw a symbol. Okay. Batista.
This book, The Power of Love, Blood, and Mandrake, what do you hope to achieve?
To learn more about the invisible strengths that govern us. Occultism is real. The master who fell that night when Fabio and I escaped, I made him fall.
You mentioned that
I
before.
cast a spell on him and it worked.
Or
Okay.
was it a coincidence?
The universe is rarely so lazy.
If you say so.
I
Oops,
don't know what to say.
That's the interesting one.
This is the letter the police found in Mr. Vogel's pocket. Fabio wrote it. Do you know anything about it?
I don't. Although I can feel Fabio's energy. It's there, but it refuses to let me analyze it.
Of course.
Do you practice occult rituals?
For protection? For fortune? To wash away the ugliness of the world? Sometimes to survive. I have the gift, and I'm learning to use it better.
Did you use your gift on Fabio?
I only used white magic. Love charms lately. Fabio became so distant. I just wanted him to be with me, but I suppose I'm not as skilled as I thought.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of clues. The murderer cleaned themselves. Unlikely, no. Ooh, interesting. Oh, maybe, potentially. Fabio was assaulted in a nearby room. Matista has fresh bruises. Pinchetti is a majordomo. Mancius mocked Pinchetti. Vogel is held because of the letter. Angry letter from Fabio? No? Okay. Power of love? No. No. Nothing? Okay, that makes sense because it didn't feel like it fit together with anything. Santos Pinchetti informed the police. Also, oh, blood on Pinchetti's shoe. Alright, yeah. Vogel is held. Matista has fresh bruises. Unlikely. Oh yeah, her activity at the party makes sense. Kurt Manches is scrupulously clean and has a washing routine, of course. Had feelings for Fabio. Okay. Kurt Manches gave Fabio expensive gifts and the angry letter. Power of love. Okay. The letter may have been for Manchius. Yes, I figured that. According to Santos Pinchetti, and by the content of the letter, it may have been addressed to Kurt Manchius. Santos Pinchetti's efforts in vain. Pinchetti has been forced to work for Kurt Manchius in the desperate hope of obtaining heritage, but it hasn't paid off. Matista may have used a ritual on Fabio. May have performed the ritual on Fabio to bring his love back. Potentially. Pinchetti missed the blood splatter, or Pinchetti accidentally stepped in blood. I'd potentially rather go with that, if I had to choose. Fabio bruised Matista, or Matista was bruised by the guests. Possibly. Manchius set himself up for debauchery. Manchius washed himself after the murder. Possible. What has my casebook got on offer? Still the letter. I haven't talked to... where's room number 7? I haven't talked to Santos about it yet.
Please let me out.
Okay. I can't.
I have reason to believe that the intended recipient of the incriminating letter may have been Kurt Manchios.
Well, that makes sense. Too bad I can't remember how I came to possess it. Though I did spend quite some time with Mr. Manchios during the party.
Unfortunately, even with an answer, that may still not be enough to clear you with the police. But fear not, I will persevere.
I hope your attempt to put things straight will make up for...
You being on a bender?
touché.
Right, wait, who am I still supposed to talk about?
There is undeniable evidence that you were the original recipient of this letter.
What are you talking about? Is it addressed to me?
Your protege wanted a fresh start, it seems. This is sufficient to charge you.
Me? Hurt my star? Are you insane that you would accuse me of such a thing?
He did not consider himself as yours. Since you deny everything, let's move on. Do you have any idea as to how the letter could have ended up in Mr. Vogel's pocket?
You were the detective. Perhaps he took it from Fabio. Werner was a little high.
I've nothing to say.
Could Fabio have written this letter to Kurt Manchios?
Oh. That could be. I never thought Mr. Manchios could make Fabio that angry, though.
What do you mean?
Well, Fabio wanted to disassociate from Mr. Manchios. Clients who are in love are both a blessing and a curse.
But Fabio was here tonight.
Money. In our line of work, we can't afford to turn down clients who pay as well as Kurt Manchios.
Was Fabio afraid of Mr. Manchios?
Not at all. The old toad wouldn't dare to do more than sweet talk and touching. Talk can be forgotten, and touching washed away.
Interesting. We're just handing around this letter to anyone who's willing to ask or read it.
The air here is rather refreshing.
Anyone else
I'd even
want to read the
recommend that some
letter?
of my friends visit the place.
Please let me out.
Yeah, maybe we'll go through the Mind Palace things first. Either Fogel or Mantius is lying. Fogel was burning bridges with Mantius. Fabio. Yeah, Fabio broke Mantius's heart. Werner Vogel took the letter himself whilst under the effect of various substances. Or Kurt Mantius slipped the letter into Werner Vogel's pocket to make him look like a suspect. That would all lead to Kurt Mantius being the murderer.
Are you done yet? Can I leave?
Not quite, maybe. Okay, maybe Mantius wants one more.
I can't
No.
wrap my head around such a tragedy at my party.
Does anyone else want to talk about the letter? Does Oswald want to talk about something?
This letter proves nothing. Fabio wrote it to Mr. Manchios. It's time to free Mr. Vogel.
Do you really think I'm that naive? I need proof, not words from his friend.
Very well. Mr. Pinchetti told me that Mr. Manchios was lavishing Fabio with expensive and eccentric gifts. The letter mentions rich rewards and attempts to buy Fabio with them. It was written to Mr. Manchios. Who else was showering Fabio with luxuries to buy him? It doesn't fit Mr. Vogel's character.
Look here. We had a deal. Give me the murderer and then take your friend with you. I won't budge otherwise.
Well, fine, but you're just wasting time.
Alright. We've looked through everything, I think. Is there all clues for current case? Alright. Essentially, we have 3 different possible... Well, technically, what would happen if I do this? Well, it doesn't really change much. Essentially, I feel like the whole scenario, well, this is technically a part where we could be like, hey, Pinchetti was the murderer, but even with all of that and having brought Pinchetti back as a suspect, I still don't necessarily think he would be the one who was responsible for the murder. Let's think about it. What motive does he have? Problem he's got is he doesn't benefit from the murder in any real way. Of course, you know... No, he's got enough... Like, maybe he's not happy about Fabio because he has to clean up after him, but his business is with his uncle. Doesn't really... Like, you could argue maybe he just wanted to get back at his uncle killing his protege, but I don't know, I just don't really see it. Matista could potentially be, but I feel like she's not shaken up enough. If she had genuinely intended to do some sort of weird ritual to bring back his love and, I don't know, put a dagger in him, and in the process, like, she should be more shaken up about it. After all, she's just killed Fabio, essentially. So I feel like Kurt being the murderer makes the most sense, just because he was the one who had the most to lose in that scenario, where Fabio essentially just wanted nothing more to do with him. He came back tonight for the money, but he was just like, I don't care about you, I'll still take your gifts, but yeah, I don't want anything to do with you. And that certainly could point to a crime of passion. Was heartbroken and panicked and did not mean to kill Fabio. The improvised ritual was a desperate attempt to cover up the crime. A prison sentence should be enough for it. His harsher punishment is the death of his love. That's actually something that fits quite well with the crime scene that we found. The bottle being the initial murder potentially. We don't... I don't actually remember if... Let me go back here for 1 second. Let me look at the casebook. The victim's description. Yes, the lacerations on his head seem to be from a blunt force trauma. The question is, well, because the question is, would the hit on his head have killed him in the first place? To which I think probably not. But I first thought, well, if that hadn't killed him, then it's kind of like, maybe it's not a crime of passion anymore. That makes it a bit more interesting. Because if he had died by his head wounds, irregardless of the dagger, but I'm not sure if that is how it happened, because realistically, well, it did say he was unconscious. It didn't say he was dead by the time he was dragged out onto the altar. Now the thing is, we did have that detail about his hand gripping the fabric tightly. But to me that doesn't really make too big of a difference regardless of him being unconscious or dead, because even like unconscious, that shouldn't really be a thing. I don't know how he would grip the fabric tightly while he's unconscious, so he might as well have been dead. I don't know. It's interesting. The one thing that I'm thinking about here is... Let me read you this other one. A sexual predator, Kurt Manchus killed Fabio in cold blood. He staged the crime as a ritual to blame Matista. He planted the letter in Vogel's pocket to avoid suspicion. Manchus has no consideration for the life of others and deserves to be hanged. Now, I am not a fan of the death penalty. Unsurprisingly. So, I would rather have him in prison. But I do agree potentially that he did kill him in cold blood, because while the strike over the head with the wine bottle may have been in the heat of the moment at first, his actions after that, all of those are mentioned here, setting the stage up in the way that, you know, you have a crime that looks like a ritual murder. You have the book in Matista's possession. You have the letter planted in Vogel's pocket. Those are all very calculated moves to try and bring suspicion away from him. Although I actually think putting the letter in Vogel's pocket is a horrendously dumb decision, because it obviously, while it may incriminate Vogel at first glance, although that never really occurred to me too much at all, why not just burn the letter? Why not just get rid of it? Because essentially, the main reason why he's even a suspect in the first... Well, okay. The main reason why he's the main suspect in the first place is because of the existence of the letter. If that letter wasn't here, then there's nothing really that points to him over Matista or Santos in particular. He doesn't have a... without that letter, he doesn't have a motive. Which is why that letter is so important, and why putting it in Vogel's pocket is a horrendous decision. That, now, is actually an interesting thing, because technically, I mean, Vogel wouldn't have known, and he was inebriated, but it could actually have happened in the way that Vogel took the letter in an attempt to have Mantius not destroyed. And, you know what I'm talking about, but apparently the game doesn't think that's how it happened, so that's fine. I'm going with Crime of Passion. Just for the outcome. Yes, okay, we'll go with that. Because it's sort of like a split down the middle there, because I don't think that's exactly how it happened. But the outcome of it will be more to my liking rather than him just being hanged. Oswald? Here you go.
Continue our investigation
Okay.
while I look for the papers.
I suppose I have to accuse Mantius of it. Yes.
The murder of Fabio did not have a ritual purpose, Mr. Mantios. It was staged by a man who wished to distract the investigation.
That might be true. That poor girl Matista wouldn't dare to kill the only man who cared for her. So, Santos.
Mr. Pinchetti snatched at the chance to solve his problems.
Ungrateful little scum. Will he be executed?
But what for? He informed the police as to the crime, that was all. He couldn't stage the ritual, but he found the body, I believe.
I can't believe it. Why did Werner do it?
Mr. Vogel, he had no reason, and he won't be a scapegoat as you planned. You put Fabio's letter in his pocket when he was intoxicated, didn't you?
You can't be serious.
Your fingernails? Partially, yes.
We can very often deduce someone's life by their shoes, or their fingernails. You are a meticulous person, but this murder was fairly traumatic and filthy. After you stabbed Fabio, you were covered in blood. You panicked and neglected to rinse the soap from under your fingernails. The devil is in the details, Mr. Mantios.
Nonsense. I missed it simply because of the busy schedule of the party.
Of course, a staged murder was certainly not planned. You're at the twilight of your life. You have no partner, you have no children. You had feelings, however, for one man. That was Fabio. You loved him. That is, you wished to own him with money and gifts. But he was also a free mind, was he not? He turned his back on you. Quite unjust. Love, so cruel and painful, and Fabio, with his words and deeds, made you feel the more wretched. So you killed him.
You must surely perceive that my sensitive nature wouldn't allow me to hurt anyone.
You staged the murder as a satanic ritual. It was easy for you, since you were the one who wrote the scenarios for the parties. It was your way of avoiding suspicion. A respectable man in his 60s,
Early 60s.
who hosts the cream of Cordona's society, cannot possibly be a murderer. But the guests who behave like animals in his mansion, of course, one of them could have killed Fabio.
I did oversee a few of the rituals, but I did not stage Fabio's death.
Fabio played with your feelings. That was painful to realize. You spent so much time and effort to be with Fabio, but he didn't respond in the way that you would have liked. You wanted to be loved, but Fabio shattered your dreams. In the smoking lounge, he teased and mocked you. He wanted you to suffer by offering himself to others. The deception was unbearable. You were passionate, and so you struck him. Once you understood your mistake, it was too late. You were afraid, so you staged the ritual. With such a story, you might be sentenced to a few years. It might clean your conscience, and soon the case will be forgotten.
No. No.
This is my decision. I'll talk to Constable Oswald to see what I can do.
Alright. That we shall do. More is there in the Mind Palace? Okay, just saying we could change it if we wanted to. But we don't necessarily want to.
There's no fool like an old fool. Kurt Mantios did it. A young boy played with the heart of an old man. The latter couldn't handle it. The evidence I obtained clearly shows that the quarrel was not intended to end badly. It was an accident.
Showing pity towards your own kind, Holmes. Whatever.
All I'm saying is that prison won't take much away from an old and crushed man.
Fine. A big name like that will still give me a promotion. As for my part, not everything was in place. Perhaps some documents were transferred somewhere else, but I couldn't find a trace of them. Then I remembered. The discarded document drawers where we put the lost papers or the badly labelled ones, including the crime scene report of Violet Holmes's case. Everything I've found is on the desk here. Take it.
Your persistence has saved me.
Yeah, well, we had a deal after all. Your friend is free then. You can leave.
Good luck, Constable.
Thank you. We will take those. Report number 07-43. Officers arrived to find the deceased identified as Mrs. Violet Holmes, lying in the garden of Stonewood Manor. Visual inspection showed the victim to be thoroughly soaked with a deep vertical incision, 2 inches in length down her throat. Her face was swollen and covered in red blotches. Likely cause of death, hypoxia. Awaiting confirmation from medical examiner. Main suspect Otto Richter was arrested on the scene. The body was sent for autopsy.
Garden. There's a garden behind our manor. How could I forget? That's where it all happened, where it all went wrong.
Sherry, it looks like...
Oh, you did it, Sherlock! The case is closed and all rewards belong to the winner. Bravo!
It is merely the triumph of the truth.
Is it? No compromises? No lies? You're happy with your decisions?
It is what it is.
Whatever the truth, it had to be revealed. The victim deserved it.
Well, you seem confident in the value of your actions. I guess since I'm free, you were heard after all. By the way, did you get that precious information about your mother? Oh, not that you must.
Yes, I did.
Forgive my intrusion in such a personal matter. I simply worry I'm failing to be of much help to you.
Actually, you were. For some reason, all the archives on the case had disappeared. This was a rare opportunity to obtain the impossible.
Outrageous. Perhaps someone found the truth unpleasant. Society usually rejects those who speak with too much honesty, doesn't it?
A comfortable lie is often preferred to an uncomfortable truth. Still, I believe that the latter should prevail, and I cannot remain silent.
That's quixotism at its best. Your mere truth cannot defeat institutions, systems, and power. Etiquette, religion, marriage, they're all lies told to preserve connections, love, and sanity. And it's all corruptible.
Lies destroy human dignity. How could you make a free decision without any knowledge of the truth?
Are we really free to decide anything in this world, Sherlock?
Spare me the lecture.
I get enough obnoxious pontification from my brother, so please, spare me your lecture.
Forgive my love for moral philosophy. I know I tend to ramble. You're a walking contradiction, Sherlock. You refuse to lie to others, but constantly lie to yourself. How long until the train comes off the track? I cannot look away, but perhaps I should take a few steps back. You're an accident waiting to happen, dear. Until then, I shall bid you adieu.
All right. We'll leave the police station. We'll take one more look at our casebook. There's a few new things to look at. Okay, it's John's thing. And there's a few new things in the Mind Palace as well. I might as well combine them right now. If there are any that fit. Yes, some do. Okay. Alright, but with that... Oh, there's quite a lot of cases that we've completed where I can still click on stuff to make the exclamation marks go away. Which I will now do because they're annoying me. Very good. Alright, so next episode we'll go back to our mansion. Actually, let me have one quick look. Is there something new in one of the furniture traders. There is actually. On this one right down there and up here too. Let's buy some furniture first before we end the episode. Here too. It's quite a lot. Let me get to it. How do I best get there? I think I'll go over here. And then through here? Huh. And we'll spend the rest of this episode buying stuff. It was, yes, further down.
Extra, extra! Interested in some Cordona news?
Yes, of course, as always, I'll buy you newspapers.
Check the front page. You won't regret it.
What have they got? Things looked dire for Cordona's needy when a precious painting was stolen from Sir Finlay Lane's gallery during an auction to raise money for homeless children. As the main lot, organizers had pinned their hopes of building a shelter for the needy on the valuable artwork. When it went missing, the fundraiser was halted, but in an unexpected twist, the painting was today returned to Sir Lane's home. Why it was taken remains unknown, but to whomever is responsible for its return, a grateful city says, "Thank you. Our island's sickly children will be blessed with a roof over their heads for another year." Slave trade trounced. One might believe Cordona's unseemly slave trade days were behind us, but recent events have shone a light on a scandalous truth. It never went away. The investigative efforts of an upstanding citizen, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, resulted in the discovery of slaves imprisoned in an abandoned railway depot. Under considerable pressure, the authorities have now intervened with captives freed, families reunited, and the malefactors arrested. And yet one question remains. How could slave traders operate on Cordona for years without being detected by the police? The Chronicle shall be campaigning for the immediate investigation of this neglect of duty or corruption. And good actor killed by bad actor. Police stormed the Mancio's mansion yesterday, uncovering a depraved soiree and the body of one of Cordona's most beloved beauties, Fabio. In a sickening twist, the young Adonis was found on a basement altar surrounded by occult inscriptions drawn in his blood. Several attendees of the gala were arrested, and upon further investigation, police determined that the strange circumstances of the death were the killer's attempt to hide the truth. A source with knowledge of the situation tells us it was manslaughter, and that the owner of the house, Mr. Kurt Mantius, had unintentionally killed the drugged actor in an act of self-defense. Were it not for his attempt to hide the crime, he would have walked free. Instead, Mr. Mantius now faces 2 years in jail. That's actually interesting that they mentioned here as well, because it is true. If he hadn't tried to hide it, he could very well have gotten away with it.
Refresh your interior. My goods will brighten up your house.
I hope so. An encyclopedia and a dinosaur skeleton.
Enjoy your purchase.
You can improve any room's feng shui by adding a dinosaur. I guess so, sure. Is that the quickest way to get down there? Perhaps. Wait, yeah, it is this bridge. I think if I remember correctly, there was a way, sort of a tower on the side of this bridge to get down. Is it left or right? I think it was here, yes. Can I jump down? I can.
The best antiques in the district. My goods will brighten up your house.
Taxidermy creature. A deranged artist brought it back from a flooded city. And preserved offcuts. Best to not ask questions. Yeah,
Enjoy your purchase.
rather not. And then we have... There's nothing here, is there? No, that's not an exclamation mark. We just have this left. Here, on the market.
Don't pass by. Welcome.
Don't miss out on the best carpets on the island. Merhaba. It's a good day for a purchase.
Is it? A Mayan ritual dagger. Summon a dragon or the end of the world.
May your purchase bring you joy.
The Cabinet of Curiosities Redux. Replace some items that once belonged in our Cabinet of Curiosities. Even if much has been lost, with everything in its right place now, I'm sure it will prompt some fond memories. And my mother's room Redux as well. Well, look at all of those things in the next episode. For now, thank you for watching.
Don't miss out on the best
Don't miss out on my unique...
I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys again next time. Till then, bye.